Do your tracks ever just feel lifeless? Like, technically speaking, they sound fine, but they don't give you that goosebump feeling? This used to be me. My tracks were clean and polished, but completely forgettable. It felt like something was missing, but I couldn't figure out what. If you've ever felt the same, I understand. I'm gonna show you step by step how to tell a story with your music so that your songs stand out and it makes people feel something. By the end, you'll know exactly how to transform your music into a journey that blows your listeners away. So this is going to be a little bit of a special video because we'll be going through some of my older projects. I really just want to go through these in as much detail as possible while explaining the storytelling and stuff like that. And as you can tell, the file is pretty huge. Let's listen to the intro here. And so what we'll do is I'll play a section and then I'll kind of explain what I was thinking while producing that section. So right off the bat, we have like 4 main sounds playing here: the piano, the guitar melody, and the ARP, as well as some ambient sounds way up here. And the main thing here is the guitar melody. It's like the hook of the story. It's getting straight into action without revealing too much yet. So if I take all these notes here and put them down by an octave, and I'll kind of simplify these here so they're not rolling. Now this is simplified so I can explain it a little bit better. This is what the chord progression is. This is kind of what I started with, and in the track it sounds very bland. So that's why I first of all raised the thirds of these chords, so these kind of middle notes here, up by an octave, and then broke them all up so that they're strumming. And that's how you get this strumming kind of sound. It's a lot more emotional and it actually adds something to the story of the track. We can also take a look at this piano. Same exact chord progression as before, of course, except I just shifted some of the notes around. I did some inversions by taking some of the notes up an octave and stuff like that. Because if I switch this back to the original chord progression real quick, which looks like this, sounds so much more boring and it doesn't really add to the song. And so that's why I just do a bunch of inversions and manipulate the notes and maybe add some more notes so that way it adds more emotion to it. See how much more emotional that gets? And that's just from shifting some of the notes up an octave and maybe adding a few more notes here and there. Another instrument in this hook is this synth ARP. Which is slowly fading in with a low pass filter. This is creating tension and it's drowned in reverb, so that way it kind of sweeps the listener through the story. That's a little better. If we take a look at this real quick, we can see that it's following the same root notes as the chord progression I just showed you, except they're going kind of rhythmically. So let me just delete all of these notes. And if I add these top notes back, you can hear how they're kind of filling in those gaps. And the last kind of main sound in this hook is the rain ambience. Now I've talked about this before, it just sets the scene for the track. This rain sound lets the listener know like, hey, this is a sad, more melancholic type of song. So if we listen to it, it's very faint in the background, but it's setting this mood under all of the other instruments. Here's a before and after. Even though it's so simple, you can hear the detail that it adds to the story, right? Anyway, moving on to the next part, we have some transitions here, a breath transition and then an impact. Sweeps the listener into the next section. And then we have this ambient pad just sitting under all of the other instruments, kind of setting the tone and almost giving it a sort of consistency. Oh yeah, we also have this one, which is even more quiet, and then this one. Just filling up space in the background. Now while all of this is going on, we have the drums up here that are playing and setting the rhythm. Some texture loops. An acoustic hi-hat that's fading in with the low pass. This is creating tension. A little drumstick fill. And then stacking on top of these two main texture loops, we have two more. Now this may seem a little bit excessive, but I really just wanted to dial in on these drums and make them sound unique. So if we play them all together, we have a kick, the hi-hat, and some snares and stuff. Once again, while all of these drums are setting the rhythm, we have all these instruments and effects playing down here, and I had to make sure that every single one of these sounds actually adds something to the story and to the track. Of course, you don't want random unnecessary sounds, so once in a while, just sweep through your project, kind of remove some sounds and listen to it and see if it actually adds something, because otherwise it's just going to clutter up your mix. All of this build-up part kind of rises up in tension until it hits this build-up part right here. Let me play it. So in this part, I wanted most of the instruments to just drop while the synth ARP takes the spotlight. And that's why we have 3 extra layers here. So of course we have the main layer. We have the second layer. And then this one. Also more of a pluck. So all together. This is probably my favorite instrument in the whole track because it's creating rising tension, but at the same time it's very melodic. Under all of these ARPs we have this analog bass. Of course, filling up the bass frequencies and giving it a little bit of rhythm, and the bass guitar playing the same notes. So if I enable the piano, the analog bass, and the ARPs and stuff. All of these layers were built to support each other and kind of fit together like a puzzle to create the whole track. So for example, in this bass guitar here, I put an EQ on it and completely cut the sub out to make room for this analog bass, which is filling up the sub frequencies. So if we add the analog bass, they work together. And the reason I didn't just have one of these basses is because I wanted to combine the snap of the bass guitar with that analog bass sound, right? Anyway, we got some reverse synths, some ear candy to kind of take us through the track, add some detail to it. Of course, in the build-up, there's a ton of build-up fills. Then we have a snare and a clap. Once again, this might seem a little bit excessive because we have tons of random layers, but I made sure to go through every single sound and actually hear if every layer adds something. All right, and so finally we have the drop. there's kind of two main things that I wanted in this drop. Number one is contrast. I wanted tons of fills and just weird stuff happening. And number two is I wanted it to be really well layered and sound super big. So if we take a look here, we have 4 main chord layers. We have this one, a more noisy layer. We have this one, classic super saw, this one, more unique layer, and then this one, super bright. So all of that together I have a full video on layering that you can go check out. I'll put it on the screen somewhere here. And you might be looking at this like, what is all this automation for? And this is just for automating like the pitch here, so it kind of sweeps up like that. And then we have some trans gates and some filters and stuff like that to create these fills. Same with this one. And like I said, I wanted contrast. So there will be points in this drop where only the kick plays and everything else cuts out, like in this space right here. And that's also where these fills come into play. If we look at the effects section, we have a bunch of random stuff going on. So some glass breaking, some glitches, some percussion, and more glitches. Even more glitches. These are just filling in the gaps where those fills are supposed to be. Like I said, contrast. There's parts where some of the song just completely cuts out, and then we'll have one of these glitches or a fill or something like that. We have some drop leads. Another layer. And then this one. All combines. They sound really weird by themselves, and these were made in Serum, mostly by just taking a square or a saw wave and modulating the pitch of them like back and forth really fast. That's what gives it the main sound. Got a ton of random mid basses as well as the sub bass. This is to make it sound more full. A lot of these are just distorted saw waves with some noise and stuff. And once all of this ends, we get sweeped right back into the second verse. Oh yeah, by the way, there's a re-space playing. This is just a saw with some detuning, an extra octave, and then a filter on it. I think I've showed you how to make this a few times on my channel. Trying to think if there's anything else to cover in this. So for the guitar, I use this contact library called Electric Sunburst, and I think it sounds beautiful and very realistic. Of course, it would probably be better to record a real guitar, but sometimes I just want to use a contact library and call it good. Beautiful. And then with this piano right here, it's also a contact library. It's the Noir Pure Piano. There's a ton of atmospheres playing, while the chords and the lead are playing to give it that ethereal sound. Oh yeah, and it's in the rhythm with the lead. So yeah, just a quick summary with this project. We have the hook that just gets straight into the track. It's playing a guitar melody as well as some piano and a synth arp. Really sets the mood, makes the viewer feel emotional, etc. We go right into the verse with some effects and stuff up here. This ambience is kind of setting the tone, setting the mood. Of course, the drums come in to set the rhythm, building tension, and then everything drops. Contrast. And it goes right back into the build-up. you get anything from this, use contrast. There should be parts where you're building tension and it's kind of rising up, it's pretty loud, and then maybe remove a few instruments and then other ones take the spotlight, and then that builds tension into the main part of the song. With all of this here, I tried to tell a story, as you can tell by the title of the video. Make sure to add ear candy and details in the background that you can't really hear, but just add so much more uniqueness to the track. And one more thing, you don't have to go all out like I did here. This is pushing like 160 tracks, I think. Yeah, of course, if it sounds good and it actually adds something to your track without messing it up, then go ahead. Just do what's actually necessary. Like I said, I produced this in 2022, and I wouldn't even consider this track my style anymore. I like to be a little bit more simple now. I've never really done a project breakdown type of video. It's usually just me producing a track from scratch. And so I guess there's a first for everything. Hopefully this inspired you somehow. Hopefully this helped you learn more about telling a story with your music, and now it's just a matter of applying this to your own tracks. Anyway, if you think I'm cool, you can click the subscribe button down below. And if you want me to help you take your music to a professional level while also building a career out of it, or if not a career, creating a more fulfilling hobby, check the link in the description. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate you. And I'll see you in the next one. Make music now, and you'll thank yourself later. Peace.